Welcome to the Freeing Your Mind equals Freeing All Minds. And today I want to just start off by reading Edward Bernays' Propaganda. I began reading this book by, of course, exposure to Mark Passio and Michael Tessarion's work. But I'm just going to start reading some excerpts from the point where it speaks on education. It talks about the mindset of a teacher. And it's pretty, this is I believe it's chapter 8, propaganda for, definitely chapter 8, propaganda for education. And I'll just read some excerpts from that, which is going to be a great way to kick this off. And if you haven't looked at his work, I hope that this whets your appetite to look at the work, because even I need these types of forums and videos to really do this deep research. It's just so much easier with support. And if Stone or a new friend comes on, that's fine. But we agreed on this time, and it's fine if they don't. They may be busy, because that's what happened to me last week. So I'm also having an event on August 5th, which is still getting worked out. Essentially, what I want it to be is an outdoor lecturing event, looking at places in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Susquehanna, just places out. And August 5th is the date so far. So, okay. So excited to read this on this platform. Check out wholereflections.com. And this is Edward Bernays' Propaganda. Education is not securing its proper share of public interest. The public school system, materially and financially, is being adequately supported. Education is not securing its proper share of public interest. So basically, in layman's terms, it's not looking for funds. That's what I interpret from that. That didn't really make sense to me even reading that, so I have to read it again. The public school system, materially and financially, is being adequately supported. There's marked eagerness for college education and a vague aspiration for culture expressed in innumerable courses and lectures. The public is not cognizant of the real value of education and does not realize that education is a social force, and does not realize that education as a social force. I still hang out with people that are linked to some social circles from high school. It is very much so a social force. Sorry for the audio. I'll still come in clear, but that'll be coming in and out. So, yeah, as a social force, education is everything. I really only want to be around people that I'm learning and advancing with, not people that I'm not learning and advancing with. And the way he's describing it is he's creating a structure that has back doors to that social network. And that's what I've experienced. I'm just grateful that somebody just put the architectural structure up. The public is not cognizant of the real value of education and does not realize that education is a social force. My gosh. It's not receiving the kind of attention it has the right to expect in a democracy. It is felt, for example, that education is entitled to more space in the newspapers, that well-informed discussion of education hardly exists, that unless such I don't know what he's referring to, so I'll have to look that up, or outside of an occasional discussion, such as that aroused over Harvard's decision School of Business education does not attract the active interest of the public. There are a number of reasons for this condition. First of all, there's the fact that education has been trained to stimulate to thought the individual students in his classroom. That wasn't a complete sentence, but has not been trained as an educator at large with the public. Trained, oh, okay. So basically training students and not teachers. In a democracy, an educator should, in addition to his academic duties, bear a definite and wholesome relation to the general public. This public does not come within the immediate scope of his academic duties, but in a sense, he depends upon it for his living, for the moral support, and the general culture. His work must be based in the field of education. We find what we have found in politics and other social evolution around him. We find that we have found that politics and other fields that the evolution of the practitioner of the profession has not kept pace with the social evolution around him, and it is out of gear with the instruments for the dissemination of ideas which modern society has developed. If this be true, then the training of the educators in this respect should begin in the normal schools, with the addition to their curricula of whatever is necessary to broaden their viewpoint. Whew. So basically talking about what the essence of teaching really is. You have YouTube teachers that will come out and they're doing this for themselves in their own material. That's why it's just, that's why I've really enjoyed that abundance of information from YouTube. The public cannot understand unless the teacher understands the relationship between the general public and the academic idea. The normal school should provide for the training of the educator to make him realize that his is a twofold job: education as a teacher and education as a propagandist. Now, in the 7th grade, I had a social studies teacher. He was a Republican, and this was when Bush was getting in office for the second term, or whenever, one of those terms. And he would spend sometimes chunks, 15, 20-minute chunks, just talking about what he was doing while he was watching news and like popping bottles while Bush was getting elected and stuff like that during the class. And so when I was reading this is why I wanted to share that, because okay, I'm reading somebody else's work, but I have backstory to an experience here that I wanted to share. Let me check where Stone is at. All right, no response yet. All right, I'll continue reading it until they get on. So essentially, there are really teachers that are out there that are straight up propagandists, especially when they just briefly state So you have a teacher. I'm just speaking off the books, so you'll just have a teacher that will show you an opinion, then teach you something you've never seen, like to add or subtract. But you're gonna have an emotional connection with that person that's teaching you that basic thing. It's how you make that perfect separation and boundary. So that may have fragmented my viewpoint, my worldview on social studies, because my 7th grade social studies teacher would talk about popping bottles for Bush winning the election, getting back into the war and other textbook linear information. Whew. This is a powerful book, man. It's like looking at the education system's teachers of a teacher's education manual, like the back of the book. A second reason for the present remoteness of education from the thoughts and interests of the public. This is back to the book. A second reason for the present remoteness of education and interests of the public in the mental attitude of the pedagogue. Whether primary school teacher or college professor, toward the world outside the school. I'm assuming pedagogue means synagogue, break down the word, peddling. So they're peddling something in that forced bracket of time with the students. This is a difficult psychological problem. And this is what I just basically talked about in layman's connection to someone who taught you how to add and subtract. The teacher finds it sacred. It is sacred. And to have somebody just come in there and put their views in any way, sliver, shape, or form, that's that propagandist role. Even if it's something that's supposedly light, like barefootedness and listening to John Lennon. I'm striking a balance here. Propaganda for, okay. This is a difficult psychological problem. The teacher finds himself in a world in which the emphasis is put on those objective goals and those objective attainments which are prized by our American society. He himself is but moderately or poorly paid. Judging himself by the standards and common acceptance, he cannot but feel a sense of inferiority because he finds himself continually being compared in the minds of his own pupils with the successful businessman and the successful leader in the outside world. Thus, the educator becomes repressed in our civilization. Whew. Just holding all those educators in prayer right now. That's so true. As things stand, this condition cannot be changed from the outside unless the general public alters its standards of achievement, which is not likely to do soon. Yet it can be changed by the teaching profession itself, if it becomes conscious not only of its individualistic relation to the pupil, but also of its social relation to the general public. The teaching profession, as such, has the right to carry on a very definite propaganda with a view to enlightening the public and asserting its intimate relation to the society which it serves. Yet it can be changed by the teaching profession itself, not only of its relation to the pupil, but also of its social relation to the general public. As such, has the right to carry on a very definite propaganda with a view to enlightening the public and asserting its intimate relation to the society which it serves. Conducting propaganda on behalf of members. Education must also raise the general appreciation of the teaching profession. Can raise itself by its own bootstraps, it will fast lose the power of recruiting outstanding talent for itself. In addition to conducting, I'm reading this again because it's just powerful. In addition to conducting a propaganda on behalf of its individual members, education must also raise the general appreciation of the teaching profession. Unless the profession can raise itself by its own bootstraps, it will fast lose the power of recruiting outstanding talent for itself. Propaganda cannot change all that is at present unsatisfactory in the educational situation. There are factors such as a low pay and the absence of adequate provision for superannuated teachers, which definitely affect the status of the profession. So I'm not sure exactly what I just said, what I just read, but it sounds like just superannuated was the word that just they already pushed me back with provision in that context, but then superannuated just was like I did not know what that meant. And I'll be honest about that. I do not know what superannuated is. I'm gonna look that up as we speak. As I speak. Provision? Superannuated? Oh, he's out of here. My Google is kind of slow. But what I can take away from it, I can break down the word. Annual super. I guess the teachers that have been there forever, they've spent a super amount of annuals there. That's my guess. I'm pretty sure that's right because that's just what those two words mean. Separately, which definitely affect the status of the profession. It is possible an appeal predicated upon the actual present composition of the public mind to modify the general attitude of the teaching profession. Like we got to manifest a better school system in one summer as a people. I was on my way to Philly, and toll dude was just like, I gave him $1 short or $1 more, and he was just like, "Oh, it's that core math." And I looked him at his eye, and I went to a private school, so I could be like, I got the real education. I just didn't. I mean, you shouldn't even be collecting this toll in the first place. That's honestly why, right? If I really wanted to go there, he was just like, "Oh, it's that core math," and I was just like, I laughed because he said it really slick, but it's not a joke, you know. Such a changed attitude, back to the book, will begin by expressing itself in an insistence on the idea of more adequate salaries for the profession. There are various ways in which academic organizations in America handle their financial problems. The type of college or university depends for its monetary support upon grants for the state legislatures. Another depends upon private endowment. There are other types of educational institutions, but the two chief types include, by far, the greater number of our institutions of higher learning. The state university is supported by grants. State, voted by the state legislature. In theory, the degree of support which the university receives is dependent upon the degree of acceptance accorded it by the voters. The state university prospers according to the extent to which it can sell itself to the people of the state. Yeah. University of Maryland is a huge example of that. Yeah, I constantly have free events there and things like that. That's why most universities have free events and different things that are kind of giving back to anyone that steps on the campus. Or, if anyone's ever had that college experience where they don't go to the school, but they think you do, it's kind of like that subconscious energy of like, hey, man, don't you go to Howard? Don't you go to Maryland? The state university is therefore in an unfortunate position. The president happens to be a man of outstanding merit as a propagandist and a dramatizer of educational issues. Man, Edward Bernays is a freaking sharply tongued, penned person. And it's like, the laughing is just, that's how true it is. There's that bit of truth. This is a great read. Yet, if this is the case, if the university shapes its whole policy toward gaining the support of the state legislature, its educational function may suffer. It may be tempted to base its whole appeal to the public on its public service, real or supported, and permit the education of its individual students to take care of itself. It may attempt to educate the people of the state at the expense of its own pupils. This may generate a number of evils, to the extent of making the university a political instrument, a mere tool of the political group in power. If the president wow. So like recently, I'm seeing a lot of the gay agenda being pushed, the race agenda being pushed, Black Lives Matter, water is, all these things being pushed, and there's an activist energy out there, and it's not anarchist, it's activist, but it's it's interesting because at UMD, I walked into the student center which is basically just the any man center, and you see all these #resist um, movies and things. Like the economy is based on people wanting to revolt now, and like catching them at that moment of being fed up, and then here you can invest in this in dollars and money as opposed to investing in your own farm or investing in your own business so that you can effectively deregister your property from the state, effectively get your education, and pay the little fees that you have to pay to uh, get that solar panel game working so that you can just be completely free. But and that is possible. But so that's interesting. I'm just speaking my experience and going back into the book. So making the university a political instrument, a mere tool of the political group in power. If I'm sure it's not so much in America, but can you imagine in every other place, almost every, even Canada, nah, any other place? If the president dominates both the public and the professional politician, this may lead to a situation in which the personality of the president outweighs the true function of the institution. The endowed college or university has a problem quite as perplexing. The endowed college is dependent upon the support, usually, of key men in industry whose social and economic objectives are concrete and limited, and therefore often at variance with the pursuit of abstract knowledge. The successful businessman criticizes the great universities for being too academic, but seldom for being too practical. One might imagine the key men who support our universities would like them to specialize in schools of applied science, of practical salesmanship, or of industrial efficiency. And it may well be, in many instances, that the demands which the potential endeavors, ende- endowers, the potential endeavors of our universities make upon these institutions are flatly in contradiction to the interests of scholarships and general culture. We have, therefore, the anomalous situation of the college seeking to carry on a propaganda in favor of scholarship among people who are quite out of sympathy with the aims to which they are asked to subscribe. Men who only accepted standards are failures, successes in our American world. I'm looking it up. seek to convince, so basically the teachers who fail, right? Convince or moderate successful people, standing successes, that they should give their money to ideals which they do not pursue. Who through a sense of buys money, seek to win the goodwill of men who love money. Whew. Holy shit. That's a blanket statement on his part, though. That can't be true. It's he's just saying, you mean in the sense he's just saying that's kind of what it can be. This reality can force one into. Is a discipline that deals with the theory and practice of teaching, informs its teaching strategies, actions, and teacher judgments and decisions by taking into consideration theories of learning, understanding of students and their needs. Oh. He is a discipline that deals with the theory and practice of teaching. The theory and practice of teaching informs. Okay. Looks like I'm running kind of low on battery. So I'm probably just going to have to shut this down when I finish this chapter, probably in like 2 or 3 minutes. We have, therefore, the anomalous situation to carry out propaganda among people are quite out of sympathy with the aims of which they are asked to subscribe their money. So, yeah, men who, through a sense of inferiority, despise money, seek to win the goodwill of men who have money. It seems possible that the future status of the endowed college, a balancing of these forces, both the academic and the endowed elements, obtaining in effect due consideration, must win public support. If the potential donor is apathetic, enthusiastic, public approval must be obtained to convince him. He seeks unduly to influence the educational policy of the institution. Public opinion must support the college in the continuance of its proper functions. Dominates unduly, we are likely to find, and let me look that up. Demogory. What's up?
Boy, it's amongst nature right now, man. I feel you.
Yeah, man.
About to get into this meditation real quick.
I bet. We're about to do a meditation. You guys are on Google Hangouts. Say what's up.
Hey, what's good? It's 8 o'clock already?
Yeah, this is freeing all minds equals freeing your minds. And
it's
these are my friends.
It's 8:30.
Hey, man. Yo,
what's going on,
chilling.
Man?
I don't know if I should.
Yeah, you can.
We're about to hold a meditation, actually. This is my boy Jabari. Like, you know what I mean? He's like a brother from another mother type shit.
Check out the trees.
Whole family out here.
Hey.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of ancient spirits out here, too. I mean, me and Abraham was just talking about, Rock Creek Park, how, 1,300 years ago, man, there were black bears back there, mammoths. Civil War was fought back there. A lot of trading was going along the Rock Creek Valley. It is called the Rock Creek Valley. So.
Hey, next show. That's going to be next week. We're going to go into that next week. So this is freeing your mind equals freeing all minds. And we're out for today.
Freeing all minds. Let's free the mind. I like this stuff.